Welcome back to another edition of the NoStoppingKev podcast, the place where we talk all things basketball and a little bit of life stuff. I'm your boy Kevin Beeford here with Pops. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. After working a long day, I'm good.
Man, it was a long work day for me too, but guess what? I'm happy to be up in the studio because I think we got another great one coming for the people again. Make sure, if you don't already, you follow us on Instagram at the NoStoppingKev Show. And also, check out the shop on our website at www.nostoppingkev.com/shop. That's where you can find our Limitless merch, as well as, our staple No Stopping Kev swag, as well as that Women's Basketball Matters hoodie. And maybe some new things on the horizon. But Dad, let's get right into it, because we got a lot to get through today. But yeah, first, we had some breaking news with your boy. Can I say your boy? Is he your boy?
No, not my boy.
He not your boy?
No.
Why not?
I don't know.
All right, well, today the NBA announced that Ja Morant will be suspended for 8 games without pay. And the 5 games that he's already missed count towards that suspension. So he has to miss 3 more games, and he'll be eligible to play on Monday, March 20th. Did I get my days right there? Yeah, my days right. On Monday, March 20th. Although Grizzlies say he probably won't play that night because they're working on ramping him up because he hasn't been doing any basketball activities. Dad, what do you think about this Ja Morant situation?
Well, what I think about it, you know what? I still think it's a shame for what he done. I just think it. I don't know. Like, it's just childish, real childish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the NBA's investigation kind of concluded that he didn't break rules in terms of like having the gun in team NBA spaces. That he briefly, witnesses testify that. Basically, he briefly held the gun during the live video, but didn't have it anywhere else. I'm not going to say I buy that 100%.
I don't buy it.
Or I don't buy it 1%. I think it's baloney, but, the whole thing, to an extent, kind of seemed performative. Like, even the narratives around, Ja Morant saying, I need to better learn how to deal with stress and deal with my mental health. This whole thing really just came down to me as a immature individual. Someone that, how old is Ja Morant?
23.
23. So, young and dumb, right? And he's been in the NBA for a minute. These guys look older. When you reach superstar status in the NBA, people kind of look at you as being older. But at the end of the day, he's a 23-year-old kid with hundreds of millions of dollars. So at times, you just kind of do dumb stuff. Him checking into... treatment in Florida, all that just seemed performative. But, guess what? He's returning to court probably next week. And, I think as long as we see that he starts to shape up off the court, because this wasn't the first incident, I think as long as he starts to shape up off the court and this has been a wake-up call and he learns from this and, he doesn't have these problems or, any other issues off the court going forward, then I think it's all worth it. But it would be sad to see if a year or 2 down the line, he's still doing kind of the same things, hanging with the same people. So let's just hope he does better going forward.
I'm just going to say, God teaches us right from wrong or allow us to know right from wrong. And with all the stuff that's going on today in time, you should know not to play with guns. You should know not to be posting guns like that. I don't know if like I said, he did what he had to do. And that's what, that's just like when people get in trouble, lawyers come through and tell you how to come through that. I think that this has to be an eye-opener for him. Because otherwise, this is just not going to go away. He got to walk a tightrope from now on. Cause he lost one of his endorsements, didn't he?
Yeah, the Powerade with
Powerade.
Coca-Cola.
Right.
So he's paying a little price.
Oh, you pay a price.
But hopefully he rebounds from this going forward. But switching over to the college game, another incident involving a gun that unfortunately was more fatal, or was fatal, was the incident with the Alabama basketball players, in which a young lady was murdered. We didn't dive into this on the show at all, but most people are very familiar with the story. I think high level overview. A member of Alabama men's basketball team got into some type of altercation with a young man and his girlfriend, and shots were fired, and the young lady actually was struck in the head and killed. Basketball player, I believe, was shot in the shoulder, one of them, and the leading player on the team, Brandon Miller, is actually kind of wrapped up in the center of this, because not only is he the star on the basketball team, but he's the one that actually drove the vehicle that had the gun. And, reports say that the player that fired the gun texted him saying, "Yo, bring me the gun." And then all this went down. Alabama, I guess, has some different laws that are a bit looser when it comes to like conspiracy and gun crime. But Alabama has been scrutinized and they've been criticized for the way they've handled the situation, letting Brandon continue to play. And he's, as of this week, they're talking about he can be the number 2 pick in the draft behind Victor Wembanyama. So it's a situation to definitely keep your eye on. I'll kind of share my thoughts on how I think Alabama handled it. But Dad, I wanted to kind of get what you thought about the whole situation.
I just go back. Why do people keep putting themselves in these positions? When he left with the gun was left in the car, and he left. He didn't take him to the night. He dropped him off at the nightclub. So, he shouldn't even been riding around with that gun in the car. Once he really knew that gun was in the car, he might have should have left it. And that would have saved a life if he'd have left that gun home.
Well, yeah, the person driving wasn't,
it was left in his car.
Yeah, but what if he didn't know it was back there?
But the guy texted him and told him to bring the gun.
So what would you do if someone texts you, say, "Hey, bring me the gun"? It's on your back seat.
I'm going to take that gun out of my car.
And do what with it?
I would have left it home in my house.
You already out, though. You down the street. You up the block.
But he left.
Yeah, but he
left. He left. He was coming back to get them.
Yeah, but he was still, he wasn't home. Let's assume he's not home. Let's just assume.
Now we assume
he a few blocks away at another bar. He gonna circle back for them later. So then what? They text you that the gun there. What you doing?
But I don't understand, why would he be going to another bar and not the club with them?
Maybe he want to go to a different spot. His girl going to a different. She want to go to the other joint up the block. She don't want to go to 1225. She don't want to go to that club. She want to go to a different one. Then what would you recommend he do in that situation, OG?
Catch an Uber and come catch me.
All right. So here's what I kind of was thinking with this whole thing, right? Because there's a lot of unknowns with this right now, like on if he even saw the text that was sent. Did he just circle back to pick them up, right? So like everyone's gonna have their thoughts and opinions, but I think one, you kind of know. Like, it's hard for someone to get in your car and not know that they have a gun. Like, I feel like if that's your boys, like, usually there's mention of it. Like, your friends carry, right? And, like, I was the type of person especially when I was in high school, and I would have to drive some of my teammates places. Like, although I knew a lot of my teammates weren't into stuff like that, they would get in my car, and I'd be like, "Yo, anybody got guns or drugs? Like, I need to know now. Because if so, like, you getting out. We not riding dirty like that." But, if he did see the text saying, "Bring the gun," right? One, if someone has time to text you, "Bring me a weapon," and then they can wait for the weapon to come, that tells me you're not in danger. Because if you were in danger at the time, you would just get out of there, right? you don't have it on you. You have to go get it, circle back, right? Not bring it to the scene where it's about to go down. So I think that's strike one. And if he did see that text, right, I think that that's very irresponsible. And then I think if that is the case, then Alabama should hold him accountable and he shouldn't play. But I think the issue is that they can't prove whether or not he saw the text, whether or not he really knew he was transporting a gun. So it's kind of, you're innocent until proven guilty, right? So you can't really penalize somebody for something you can't prove, right? Because we've seen instances where, people are convicted of a crime they didn't commit, and then years later they're released because they were innocent the whole time. So I kind of think that's part of the situation Alabama finds itself in. But, it's a shame. And that's why you got to kind of be mindful of, who you're associated with. And also, if you don't, like the kid whose gun it was, his mom said he had a gun and carried a gun because he's once had a gun pulled on him. I think that, I get part of that, but sometimes you don't even need to kind of travel with one. And it seems like he's a bit impulsive, because I'll go back to you being able to wait for it to come, right? So you weren't in any real danger to even need it. And these guys have been out drinking, so you kind of mix alcohol and guns. They're just never a good combination.
Like I'm going to say this, and here goes, we know because of who he is and what he accomplished that they got this. This is no different than, it is different than John Morant. But the only thing is, it was a life lost in this. But you can't tell me, we all grew up. We all grew up in a time. We know what one of our friends, I'm not letting somebody that I don't know get in my car. Like, I know if my friends, I know who get in my car if they doing drugs, if they carry guns, if they play with guns, or if they had guns around them. I already know that. It's not, the only way it's going to be somebody the first time, they know each other. So I can't buy that. And I might be wrong. I'm not saying I'm right. And then, if I'm not mistaken, it wasn't the guy who gunned it was that did the shooting, was it?
It was him.
He told another guy that the gun was in the car.
The guy that pulled the trigger is the owner of the gun. But someone else, another teammate, actually took the gun from the car and handed it to him.
Okay. All right. I got that wrong. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So it's definitely a crazy situation, but I guess we'll have to see how Alabama fares in the tournament coming up, and also, how this, the legal side plays out, and if it impacts Brandon Miller's stock. But it's
But they said he had no charges filed against him.
Yeah, and that's what Alabama's leaning on. But who knows if that may change, but we don't know. Time will tell.
Nah, I think he's gonna beat it.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna beat it. But this need to be an eye opener for him too. But not just him, for the world and for other young athletes coming up to see this, to get a whiff of it, because this millions and millions of dollars he could have blew. Because like you said, he could go second in the draft. So that's money he blew, and endorsements and all like that. So, if that's worth it, that's not even worth it. It's not worth it. When I was coming up, I knew people that, see, I guess we came up better because the guys that was running around like that would make sure that we was all right, but they wasn't going to let us do no stuff like that. If they caught us with a gun, they probably took the gun from us. They didn't want us walking around. They want us to play basketball.
Times have changed.
Yeah.
But moving on to something you might actually appreciate. The NBA is trying to combat load management. So the NBA and the National Basketball Players Association, they've been in talks about putting in place a minimum game requirement in order for players to be eligible for season awards. We're talking MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, All-NBA, all that stuff, right? And, players kind of want to win these honors because usually in their contracts, there's bonuses attached to it, right? So right now, in order for a player to be eligible for, let's say, the scoring title, right? Or like just to be on any of the leaderboards, you got to play a minimum of 58 games. That equates to about 71% of games for the season. So it'll be interesting to see what the requirement is in order for players to be eligible for awards like MVP, right? And this, I wonder if they'll impact the leaderboard numbers as well. So, I'm thinking right now you got to play 58 games. That's about 71%. I think maybe they set that mark at 70 games. Then you're playing 85%. And then that gives you about 12 games you could miss and still be eligible for, those season awards. But they realistically, the number might be like 65. But we'll see. We'll see. What are your thoughts on all of this?
I think that's good. I definitely think it's good. But the thing is, like, if you got a real injury, I don't. Then I think that's take away from somebody that really gotta miss games than somebody just taking a night off or just saying something like that.
Well, to take a night off right now, you have to cite an injury. Like you have to cite, you know, uh, injury management. Something like you got to give a reason, right? You can't really just put rest anymore. It has to be tied to something. So it's going to be hard differentiating that. Like, sure, if a guy sprains his ankle and we can see he sprained his ankle, but then there's guys that have like stress injuries, like things you can't visibly see all the time. So it's sure some guys will pay for it, but it's kind of the situation the league finds it in. So like maybe instead of 58 games, even if they up that to, I said 70, but maybe that number's like 65. So then you get, what's that, like 17 games you could miss, if my math is right.
Like I'm saying, like you said, that Anthony Davis, what has in his contract that he don't have to play back-to-back games. So,
I'm not sure if that's in his contract, but they've agreed.
It's not in his contract.
Yeah,
Let's
like
say
the organization is like
like
Embiid was on the same thing for a minute, not playing back to backs. But speaking of Anthony Davis, we'll get into him. He probably should play tonight because Darvin Ham said he's been playing pain free. So if nothing's hurting, why you not playing? But people said again he got one of those stress injuries. So like if he puts too much stress on his foot, he could start having some problems. So it's we'll say it's a very fluid situation, but I think it's good if they put that cap or put that minimum requirement in there because it will force guys to play. It will prevent situations from fans being impacted where they come out to see certain guys play and now that guy's not in the lineup.
So like what you're saying is who are gonna make play? Who are gonna make play? People in the running for like the MVPs and stuff like that. Because if I'm not in the running for that, I'm gonna go ahead and miss my game.
Well, it's players that are So that's another part of it. So like you do have some superstars that aren't gonna play, but there are some guys that are like kind of gunning for that. Sometimes they're up there at the top. I think this year when you're looking at the MVP race, you have guys like Joker, Embiid, Giannis, Tatum. Those guys pretty much play every night. So, but it's like some of the other awards, like sometimes even being, think about All NBA. Those are 15 guys, right? So now you start stretching that pool. So now you have guys like Kawhi, have the potential to make those lists. Who are some of the other guys that are sitting out constantly? I mean, even, you have LeBron has to sit out some games at times, Anthony Davis. So I think when you start looking at more than just MVP and kind of stretching it out to different categories, that now your pool of players that are potentially motivated to play a little bit more gets wider.
You know what? Time would tell.
Exactly. I agree.
And I had to say it because I don't think just for them to make the team, they already know what they bring. And some of them already know. And some of them, like, I don't know if that's going to really change it.
But it's the way contracts are structured. and this may be something that continues to change going forward. There's bonuses associated with getting different honors. So now if your contract is structured to where, let's say you're a top 15 player in the league, a decent bit of the money in your contract is going to be predicated on if you make All NBA. Now you got a little bit more motivation to go out there and play for that.
But some of them players make so much money already. I don't really see that, because they got endorsements and stuff coming from other places where that money coming from there is going to be more than that little bonus that they get.
But the accolades that come with playing too, like think about it. When you're making your case for being a Hall of Famer, you want to be talked about like in the same category with all the greats. So even when we talk about players on here, you love citing how many times a guy's made an all-star team, how many times a guy's made all NBA, all defensive teams. If you're not making those lists, now it's a little bit easier for people to forget about you down the line. Your resume doesn't look as impressive. Something to think about.
Well, yeah, I'm still not seeing that eye to eye, but.
All right, so just next time we go to debate about a player and you bring up their all NBAs and stuff, I'm like, oh, just imagine if he didn't have those because he didn't play enough games. Would you be talking about this guy? But
so they saying you won't make all NBA if you don't play a certain amount of games?
It encompasses all of that. It's not just MVP.
Okay.
It's all those end of season awards that players get. All of that.
So if you don't play a certain amount of games, you can't make all NBA.
Correct.
Okay, so you can't make the All-Star team.
All-Star is different. All-Star's not that's different.
Okay.
But guys get impacted for All-Star game already.
Okay. I still want to see that stop some of the players from making a Hall of Fame.
I don't know if it's gonna stop guys from making Hall of Fame, but it's gonna impact some resumes though.
I think they just really trying to put some stuff in it to clean up some stuff. I don't know how much of an impact that, like I'm saying, that player's going to really go. I mean, like, I don't think that going to be, it looked good for them to try to, it may stop some of the load management and stuff like that. I got to see it. Because, like I'm saying, people are so spoiled right now. Some of them players are so spoiled right now. That money isn't going to make that much of a difference.
It's more than money, though.
Okay. All right.
It's more than money.
Okay.
Speaking of awards, right now, the MVP race for the third year in a row looks like it's coming down to two guys. Nikola Jokic of the Denver Nuggets and our hometown fellow, Joel Embiid of the Philadelphia 76ers. Stephen A. has kind of made a push for Joel Embiid. Zach Lowe has kind of said, anybody that wants to throw dirt on the Joker for his postseason woes is misguided because he's actually had more success in the playoffs than Joel Embiid. What are your thoughts on the MVP race this year?
Well, you know what? It was the same two people last year too, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm leading towards Joel Embiid. I'm not just saying that because he is playing, and I think the Joker has a better team around him than Embiid. Embiid is really carrying us. He really is. Like, you could see the games that he don't play, what really happens to us. You could see when he goes out of the game, what happens to us.
You can kind of make that case though for Denver too, but I'm with you. I think Embiid is not looking at numbers, just like watching a game. I think his impact is greater.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Now, I'm not talking about triple doubles. I'm talking about him playing both ends of the floor at times.
Mm-hmm. I think Embiid is definitely the better two-way player out of the two. I think, people look at the Joker and you look at how he can impact the game from a points and from a scoring and facilitating standpoint. He is a bit more versatile in that regard. But when you look at moves that Embiid can do and things he can do at a size at 7'2" offensively, like the way he can score at all three levels, some of which even off the dribble, I think he's the better player. It's sometimes, winning those votes is politics, right? You even look at the way the Joker is kind of celebrated for averaging a triple double, right? Because I think he did it last year. I can fact check that, but he's trying to average a triple double again this year, right? Russell Westbrook was doing that, and then what people start saying, oh, he's stat padding. It kind of became a negative thing when, if it was that easy, a lot more people would do it. So I think sometimes the narrative that can be created in media can kind of frame a person a certain way. And I think, the Joker has gotten the benefit of that. Whereas Joel Embiid, for, whatever reason, whether it's his history with injuries, whether it's, kind of his mannerisms and demeanor, right? Just hasn't won over the votes. I think looking at last year, though, looking at kind of all the numbers, if I'm trying to be objective, I think, Joker probably deserved it. But then it's just hard to kind of continually reward a guy like that when he fades in big moments at times.
Well, they talking about how they fading right now.
They are.
How they fading right now.
They are. The Sixers are making a push right now. Currently, we are a game behind the Celtics trying to get that number 2 spot. And Denver has lost like their last 5 or something games or something crazy.
Right.
They're still number 1 in the West, which, only helps the Joker's case for MVP, because last year Embiid led his team to number 1 and still didn't win it. But this year, Joker is, in fact, number 1. I think last year they finished like 4th or something. So it's going to be what I think the NBA kind of always does, right? Some years they reward the right guy. I mean, some years they reward the wrong guy, and then they kind of correct it, retroactively. So in the past, let's say a guy like when John Morant was really taking off, and he probably should have won Most Improved Player. They didn't give it to him, but then he got it like a year after, right? I think we're going to see that this season with Joel Embiid winning the MVP. I think in years past, you look at last season, the Joker won MVP and then didn't kind of deliver in the postseason, and people were like, oh, is this guy really that good? Like, he's still a heck of a basketball player. But I think they want to give it to Joel for what he's been able to do and how he's been able to carry this Sixer team. I'll let you have the last word on this.
No, I think if he finish up the way that he's been playing, I figured that he should get it. I mean, I think he should have got it last year. And what scared me, like a lot of times, is they trying to put him like in the category with Larry Bird and Wilt Chamberlain for winning 3 MVPs. That's kind of scary to me.
He is a heck of a player, though.
I'm not saying that he's not a player. I'm not saying he's not a good player. Embiid is a good player, and I think Embiid has been improving.
So you wouldn't like to see Nikola Jokic name up there with guys like Larry Bird and Wilt?
I don't think he hasn't won anything really yet.
So you want to see some He got to get some championships for you to give him the same level of respect.
I mean, Larry Bird and them. When you talking about Larry Bird and them really kind of dominated. The stories that you might hear about Larry Legend.
Yeah, super team though, but
super team.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what? Like sometimes, like you could say, I you know what? Everybody that came to Boston. Like Kevin McHale was drafted into Boston. Okay, we're going to talk about the Chief. Robert Parrish was traded in, but Robert Parrish just played his role. He played his role in there. He wasn't a superstar. Like some of them, they wasn't like that. Larry Bird, you know what? Larry Bird, when Kevin McHale came to Boston, that's when they got over it, because we know Magic in his rookie year took L.A. and some people just make people better around them. Sometimes it ain't all like how you talking about. It ain't all about like having the passes and all like that. Sometimes like you know what, Kobe made people better. And just like his partner just went to, he just got retired in L.A. And I wasn't a big Paul Gasol fan.
Pau
Pal
Gasol.
Yeah, Pal. I always Pal.
Pau was my guy.
But you know what? But what he say? Kobe pushed him. Kobe, if it wasn't for Kobe, he wouldn't have been who he was. And he was good. Where he was in Minnesota before? What's that?
I think he was in. Powell might have been in Memphis. I can't remember.
Memphis. It was Memphis. I know it was something with him. But what I'm saying, I mean, he was good there. But see, you know what? He got better around Kobe.
Yeah, that wasn't a super team.
But Kobe, no, that wasn't a super team. No. Definitely not.
No,
definitely
but them Celtic and Laker teams back in the 80s were stacked.
I'm not. You know what? The league, like, you know what? One thing, the league had players. So you can go, like, you know what?
There's a reason Boston and LA have 18 championships.
Let me ask you a question.
There's a reason.
Let me ask you a question. Was the Sixers team ever stacked?
You could say with when they had Barkley and Malone, and that was a pretty stacked team. I won't say it was stacked. Like, my point is, the Celtics have always had great teams.
Okay, let me say this. When we had Maurice Cheeks, Andrew Toney, you had Dr. J, you had Moses Malone, and, well, we know Mark Auburn. We're not going to say that, but you had Bobby Jones coming off the bench. Back before then, we had World Be Free and players all the time that we had good teams. But the league teams was deep.
How many Hall of Famers were on those rosters? We got to move on in a second. But let's compare Hall of Famers. Bird had Hall of Famers.
What Hall of Famer? What? Kevin McHale?
Mm-hmm. Who else
Is Robert Parrish a Hall of Famer?
I'm not sure. We have to check that. But who is their point guard?
Dennis Johnson.
Did they not have Danny Ainge back then too?
Danny Ainge Hall of Famer?
I'm not sure.
I don't think Danny Ainge a Hall of Famer. But let's look at first time ballot Hall of Famers.
Bill Walton, Parrish, McHale, and Dennis Johnson.
Bill Walton really, he did his thing really important.
Yeah.
He did his thing important.
Yeah. Then he came over to Boston. What happened?
What?
Came over to Boston. What happened?
He came off the bench, didn't he?
And won a chip, right?
Who did they have? He won it with Larry Bird.
Yeah, and a couple other Hall of Famers. But we got to move on. We're coming down. This final stretch in the season, right? How do you think the West is gonna shake out? Like, everybody's watching LA, if there'll be a play-in team, or if they can, or even Golden State. Like, is Golden State gonna hold down that 6th spot? Everyone's wondering. Have you had the opportunity to see those teams at all?
Yeah.
And your boy AD, right? We talked about him last week on the show, and I talked about how underwhelming he is, and then he comes out and he has a pretty good week. Although he had a couple games where he had like 8 and 17 points and they lost. Why you looking at me like that?
He had 8 points.
Yeah, man. My man had a bad game one day. He had a couple bad games.
What game was that?
So he had let me see here. Why am I? Oh, let me slide this over. My mouse not working today. So against Toronto, he had 8 points.
Is that the game he went out hurt?
He played 33 minutes. You out there for 33 minutes. You the best thing out there. You supposed to be one of the all-time greats, and you only put up 8 points. I don't want to hear. They won that game, but he only had 8 points. He had 9 rebounds, taking up space. Then they come back. He had 17 points and a loss to the Knicks without Jalen Brunson.
No.
Then he bounced back and had 35 last night. My biggest thing with Anthony Davis is the lack of consistency. That's why it's going to be hard for me to ever put him up there as one of the greatest players in the league today, and definitely can't do that when it comes to his plays all time. Was he top 75?
Yeah.
That's why on that list don't mean shh.
But when he come to play, he plays.
Yeah.
I told you that.
He a top 75 guy?
Huh?
He a top 75 guy?
That's not me to pick that.
Come on, man.
I'm not gonna say I don't know. I never picked a top 75.
All right, how about this? Sure you didn't, but Dwight Howard or Anthony Davis?
I probably would go with Dwight Howard.
Why?
Why? Because of what Dwight did when he was in the league.
Yeah, Dwight dominated the league for a period of time.
Yeah.
Like, he was dominant. Like, you know, the way people look at Giannis, like, there's no answer. That was Dwight for a minute, and people forget that.
I ain't gonna pick Dwight with Giannis.
I'm not, like...
I ain't gonna...
That when you look at those years, he was dominating the league, and teams couldn't do anything with him.
No.
Dwight had that level of dominance.
I'm not gonna pick that he got the dominance that the freak got. No, I'm not gonna get that to him.
All right, you don't have to. But I'm just saying, whether we want to admit it or not, for a while, Dwight, the league had no answer for Dwight Howard. And that's a fact. Dwight went to the finals with Jameer Nelson, Hedo Turkoglu, and Rashard Lewis. And had they not run up against the Mamba, he might have had a title. Just maybe. But my thoughts in the West, let me get my standings back up here one more time, one more again. So we got right now, we got Golden State at 5, Clippers at 6, Timberwolves 7, Thunder 8, Mavericks 9. They're trying to hang on in that playing game. They got Kyrie and Luka out. And then Lakers holding on at 10 with only a 1-game lead up on the Jazz. So they got to make a run here. AD's not playing tonight. They need to win every game. So, you know, I think the Lakers are going to make the play-in because the NBA needs LeBron James in the playoffs. So I think they're going to make that happen, right? You know, investigate some people's fan duels. But, yeah, I'll be betting when AD's in the lineup, take the Lakers. The refs got your back. Now let me stop.
Well, you know, my pick, if KD come back and the Suns be healthy, that's one of my teams out west. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is that I'm telling you, with the Lakers over the last month, you bring LeBron back, that's gonna be a scary thing. That's gonna be a scary thing.
I don't know if they're deep enough. And like
with their few new additions, you know, at the deadline, role players.
They may
role players.
If the Lakers go into the playoffs and they play the Nuggets the first round, because Jamal Murray isn't the Jamal Murray that was in the bubble, and because I don't trust the Joker in the playoffs, they may can win a series. But then I think they might be out in the next round.
We already know that Denver's slipping already.
Yeah, I'm saying that's the only way the Lakers get to the second round.
What?
They got to play either the Nuggets, and they might can get past the Grizzlies. They might can muscle their way past the Grizzlies. But I don't know if they can beat the Kings. They damn sure can't beat the Suns if KD playing. And I don't think they beat the Warriors. I just don't think they beat the Warriors.
So you saying
like any of those other teams out the West?
I don't even want to say. I don't even want to say this word. So you don't think with LeBron, with your man LeBron, and AD and the rest of them players stepping up a little bit? You don't. You know what? I hate to say that because you know I'm not a real Laker fan. But I think, you know what? I think LeBron, and if AD played the way that
That's
AD
the if.
played.
That's the if. I don't trust AD. I don't trust AD to do what he needs to do.
But you got other players that's stepping up now.
You need AD to do his job if the Lakers going to be successful. Bottom line.
AD been doing his job.
For the For a week.
No, for like
10 days. Oh, we go week and a half.
You just had 2 games. You had
week and a half.
You had 8 and 7.
Where he been at all year? We ain't talking about this man all year. Why? Because he ain't been doing shit, Dad.
What is he averaging? Kevin?
For the year?
Yeah, what is he averaging?
I'm going to pull it up, man.
Yeah, pull up his average for the
What
year.
if he that good this year, why the Lakers in the 10th spot?
How much did he play? How many games did he miss?
Inconsistent. Inconsistent.
Okay.
You can't stay on the floor. He's fragile, man.
Okay. You know what?
That's a part of being great.
You know what?
You got to be on the floor to be great.
You know what? You're gonna eat your words, man.
I ain't eating nothing.
You're gonna eat your words. And I ain't talking about baloney.
Pull up Anthony Davis stats for this year. Man, I don't even like looking at this man's stats.
I know you don't.
How many games he even played this year? Stats are meaningless. He played more games. He's going to have some more 8-pointers in there. I'll tell you that.
Okay, we'll see.
Pull up this. You got my episode going longer. I'm going to have to cut some stuff now. He averaging 26 and 13.
Okay.
Good stat line.
Okay.
It's not great.
Okay.
Should be getting 30 a night. He should be getting 30 a night.
Okay. But you got the king is averaging about 30, right?
AD's supposed to be getting 30 a night.
Okay. It's not easy.
Your pass first guy got to lead y'all in scoring.
Uh-huh.
You heard me loud and clear.
He's not a pass guy first.
He is.
No, he's not.
You just don't watch him. But it's that time in the show where I gotta highlight, my homies in the women's basketball world. So, first up, shout out to the South Carolina Gamecocks because they became only the 3rd team in the history of women's college hoops to go back-to-back seasons ranked number 1. The other 2 teams to do that, can you name one of them? Take a guess.
No, I can't name it.
Take a guess. Women's basketball dominant
I don't know.
over the last forever.
Who, Connecticut?
Yep, UConn's one. The other one is
yeah.
Louisiana Tech. Didn't know they were ever great. Got to do my research here, see who was on that team. Also, keeping in line with college basketball, the All-American teams were announced, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd team. But I wanted to give shout out to the 1st team, because you have Aaliyah Boston from South Carolina, my girl Caitlin Clark from Iowa, who I say is the Steph Curry of women's basketball, Mackenzie Holmes of Indiana, shout out to my IU folks, Angel Reese of LSU, and Maddie Segrist of Villanova. Congrats. So yeah, Dad, make sure you watch some of the women's tournament over the next couple of weeks. I'll text you to remind you. And all of y'all, make sure y'all watch them too. But yeah, we got to get ready to get out of here. Yo, Dad, it was good episode. Always enjoy talking with you. I'm going to talk to you more about your Anthony Davis picks though. And yeah, we got to get out of here. So don't forget to check out our merch, shop that Limitless collection, and also follow us on Instagram at the NoStoppingKev show. And do me a favor, go to our post on the Instagram page and comment who you think is going to be this year's men's and women's champions. Till next time, peace.